All right, ladies and gentlemen, today we're learning about how to start building one side of your bridge. As you can see here, I have the drawing that I worked on, and I've just done a rough layout of my popsicle sticks to get an idea of what I'm working with. We're going to need some popsicle sticks, a pencil is going to come in handy, some sandpaper might help, or a cutting tool. Now, in class here, we're using these cutting tools that are really designed to cut things like popsicle sticks, and they work really well. Safety is the first and most important thing we got to talk about. Hot glue guns are hot. Never touch the tip of the hot glue gun. It'll burn you. Never put glue on your skin. Never put glue on other people's skin. Be careful. Always keep it pointing away from you. And always put it on a piece of paper or cardboard instead of letting it drip on the desk. So have a workspace at home. Make sure your parents approve, and make sure you have their permission to use the hot glue gun. Also, never, ever, ever put anything in there. Never cut a pencil. Never cut a marker. Never cut your fingernails. And of course, never cut a cable. Bad news. Don't do that. That could be dangerous. All right, to start building the bridge, we're going to start kind of like the way we drew it. We're going to start with the lower chord. This is the lower chord. This is the upper chord. Everything in the middle is called the web. The lower chord needs to be glued first. And it's really important that these are nice and straight, which is why we did such a good job with our drawing. Now, if we glue the popsicle sticks together end to end like this, we know that's not going to be very strong at all. There's just not enough surface area for that to do a whole lot of good. So that's not really the way to do it. There are better ways, and there are several ways to do it. One of the ways is to put two together and cut them at an angle. So with my cutting tool here, keeping my finger away from the blade, I'm going to cut this like that. And now if I turn these around, I have more surface area to join them together. Okay, so you can see how that lines up there. That's better than the other method, but still, we can do even better than that. And I know some of you are thinking, yeah, that's better, but why don't you put one on top? And that is certainly what I would do. So not only can we do something like that, and I'm just going to smooth out that glue a little bit. It's cool enough. It doesn't hurt. We can do something like that, and then we can put another one on top. That's one way to do it. But if I do that, I'm actually going to fall short over here on my design. And I think as long as you're putting some on top, you don't really need to cut this. So I'm going to lay it out again dry without any glue at all. And that seems to work out pretty good. I can tell that it's sticking out a little bit, but as long as it's less than 14, I'll be okay. So let me just check here with my tape measure or ruler, and yeah, sure enough, that's going to be fine. So I'm just going to let those on there for now. But if that's something that drives you crazy and you want to clean it up, good for you. Here's the way to do that. You mark with a pencil wherever you want to make a cut. So you go like that, mark it so it's lined up, take your cutting tool, cut, make sure you're pointing that away from your face when you cut it. If you're working at home, I know you don't have these at home, but you might be able to find a cutting tool like a wire cutter with parent permission. That could work. You might be able to find something like this, which I would call a side cutters or a wire cutter. This will work as well. You might just have to do it in small increments. So a little bit, kind of nibbling your way across and keeping it again pointed away, and wearing safety glasses. Wear safety glasses or wear a safety shield so nothing can come up and hit you in the eye or others around you. All right, so I've now cut the ends of those, and you know what? That looks pretty good. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to take another popsicle stick and I'm going to lay it on top. Now, I'm worried about using too many, so for me, I'm going to split this one in half. Like that. I'm going to cut the rounded part off just so it looks nice. I'm going to make these exactly the same. There are several ways you can do this. So I'd encourage you to experiment, try some different things. Do a little research. I got some glue on there like that, and now I'm going to lay this right on top of that connection. Now, would it be stronger to use an entire popsicle stick? Absolutely it would be. That would be stronger because it'd give you more surface area to glue. Now I want to be sure I keep this straight, so I'm going to line this up, and before that glue cools off too much, I can give it a little adjustment here and keep it nice and straight so it's within the lines. You can also turn it this way and just push it down on the table a little bit, and that'll help straighten it out. Now I got the same thing to do over here. I'm going to take my hot glue gun, carefully putting the glue on it without burning your skin. Make sure if you have a glue gun that has multiple heat ranges that it's always on low. You always want to use low heat for this. You do not need high. High temperature guns will burn you. The glue gun itself and the glue is extremely hot. So there we go. We have a bottom cord or lower cord across our bridge or our truss. Notice it is not glued to the paper. Do not glue it to the paper. Will you get glue on the paper? Sure, and that's fine, but you're not gluing it to the paper. Now, we've got to build the upper cord, and much the same way, well, that would have worked out nicely, but it's a little too short. So I've got to do the same thing here. I'm going to line those up, and boy, 2 of those works out really well. I'm just going to put another support across the top, and I think for this one I will use a complete popsicle stick like this. And again, try to be precise, keep everything nice and straight. It's going to help you later on. All right, so that's looking pretty good. And now, to hold those in place, I've got some masking tape here. So I'm going to put some masking tape wherever I have an opening, like right here. I'm not going to put it here because that's where I'm going to be putting another support in a little bit. So I'm going to put a piece there. And this just helps, kind of like an extra set of hands. Keeps things in place. And if the paper tears when you're taking this off, again, it doesn't matter. You're not turning in the paper for a grade. It is used to help you with the construction process. So now we just got to finish out our end pieces. And I've designed mine to use a full popsicle stick there, so I don't have to do a lot of cutting. If you did have to cut it, let's pretend that you had this much sticking out. The way you do that is you follow this line across with your pencil, like that. And then you would cut it right on that line. Hold on to the bigger part, point this toward the floor, and then you have something that looks like that. That is what you want right there. You do not want it to look like this. Okay, that's a waste of material, doesn't look nice, isn't smooth. So you want something like that, if needed. Now, you also have some sandpaper available, and the sandpaper can be used if you don't have a way to cut. Let's pretend that you needed to cut this piece, again, something like that. It might take a little bit of time, but if you push it down against the paper and against the table, you can sand right up to your line. Something like that. It doesn't take too terribly long, and you can do that. Now, if you're cutting them in half, that's a different story. Of course, you're not going to sand half of a popsicle stick away. You're going to have to find something to cut them with, and you can do a little research on your own on that and find some alternative ways to cut it. So there we've got the outline of that side, and over here we're going to add some glue. There we go. So that is really the first major hurdle here, is getting the outline done. The next thing you're going to focus on is all your vertical pieces. So first step, lower chord, upper chord, ends. Second step is verticals, not diagonals. So you want to focus on, for me, these 3 vertical pieces. I'm going to try to use things that I've already cut because these have to be shorter like that. Now you can cut them flat at the bottom. You can also run them underneath if you want to. You can loosen the tape up and put it on the other side. I've had kids do it like that. And if you have enough popsicle sticks, double it up. Put 2, one on one side, one on the other. You can do it that way. I've had students cut them to fit on the inside, although gluing them together is not as strong, but it does look nice, but it's not going to give you the strength. So I can let that like that if I want to, and I can just make a mark here to cut that top part off. You can sand it smooth if needed, and then we can glue that in place as well. you want to make sure you're using a fair amount of glue. You know, you don't want so much that it's all over the place, but generally speaking, think of a coin like a penny or a dime. If you put a penny or a dime on top of there, it should cover the majority of the glue. The glue should not be extending out onto the cords like that. So we're going to get our centerpiece here. And sometimes adding some pressure to these glue connections is a great idea as they're drying. Now the last step for our truss here would be the diagonals. And for this one, I understand that I'm getting pretty high here because I've got 1, 2, 3, and now 4 popsicle sticks stacked up. And over here I've only got 2. So it might be a good idea to slide these underneath and put them on the bottom, just to kind of balance things out. You don't have to do that, it is your decision. It would be a lot easier for me to glue those on if I pulled it off the paper. Again, this is all up to you. There's no wrong answer here. Think about what works. Think about what you think is going to be strong and efficient. And it also depends on your design. So this may not be a problem for you, but I'm going to flip it over. And on this side, while I have it here, I'm going to add some glue to these connections a little bit. Make sure that I've got glue in there. And now lining it back up with the drawing, I'm going to go across like this. So glue. Something like that. And I think it's good to work on one side and then the other. Instead of going all the way across, I like to, whatever I do here, I do over here. Then here, then here. That helps me make it symmetrical. Something like that. And then I've got 2 more here to put into place. And I could do something like that. And there we go. So there we have one side of our truss complete, or our bridge rather. So we would set this to the side, and then the next session, you would build the other side, identical to it. Then we take 2 of these and hook them together. It's always a good idea to make sure you have plenty of glue on each connection. And for those of you working from home who are only going to get to test this one time, I would recommend you do a little extra glue. The kids here in class are going to have the opportunity to test it multiple times, and they can see where there's a weak spot and make an adjustment. So it helps a little bit if you're here, but we're going to make it work. And that's how you build one side of your bridge. You can also get rid of all these little strings here that occur when you're in a hurry like I was. Be careful. Have a good time. Enjoy building your bridge.